Yeah, so it's like, let's move on to Ben Carson. Of course, obviously, Ben Carson got voted out of committee. That means that he's moving on to a full Senate vote. Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, Sherrod Brown said that he's going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's made some comments about being committed to dealing with lead in public housing. That's all it takes. He's going to deal with lead in public housing. Like, how the hell is he going to do that? Like, what's he going to do that's not already being done?
He spouted a lot more platitudes than that. He also talked about, getting rid of disparities in income. In housing between, people of color and white people. Like he said all the right words. So and I think it's unfair of you, Anoa, to judge him based on the things he was saying 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago and not give him another chance.
The fact that a neurosurgeon had someone write him statements to say the right thing when he absolutely has no freaking clue about urban affairs, policy, housing, or anything. I mean, I don't think he has a perspective. He has no basis of knowledge or understanding for this position. If this is a position like that's just, I mean, there should be some requirement, and which is a slap in the face to people who are probably like career HUD employees, who are probably the real people who run the organization, the entity or whatever, that, somebody like this is like the epitome of somebody getting that job that you've been like working your butt off with your company and they have no experience whatsoever, which is true. He has no experience. Sure, he's been a neurosurgeon for however many years, but like, I mean, how the hell is he going to address fair housing, homelessness, et cetera, et cetera? He literally has no clue what the hell's going on in this realm. Like none. And for, Elizabeth Warren and Sherrod Brown and others to be like, well, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We're going to hold his feet to the fire. He said, he said this, and we're going to take him at his word. Like you said, but when we were first starting, before we came on, like this seems like to be the parade of crazies. And as long as they're less crazier than what's his face, than Trump, as long as they say some of the right magical words, then we're okay.
And see, that's one of the real dangers of Trump, right? Not just with his cabinet, but with the entire American politosphere, for lack of an awful term I just invented probably. That Trump is not a metric for bad. Like not even the metric for we've gone too far. Oh my God, we've done it. We've finally done it. Like this is insane. He's now the metric for just okay. Well, he constitutes bad. And so we talk about let's move on. I transition into talking about Kelly, the new head of the Homeland Security, who is also incredibly radical. That people feel like people like Kelly are the moderates, and they are willing to install people like Kelly, because Kelly was confirmed that on Friday at 88 to 11, and from a Senate vote, that he's a moderating force. Now, this is the same Kelly who was, in charge of Guantanamo Bay, who resisted its closure when President Obama was quote unquote trying to, close Guantanamo Bay. He resisted their closure. He put a media blackout on Guantanamo Bay when they were persisting in torture, and by torture I mean when they were force feeding prisoners who were on a hunger strike, which the UN describes as torture, and that's similar to waterboarding. This is the same drug warrior that feels like the drug war in Latin America, which kills hundreds of thousands of people a year, is not effective enough because it doesn't have enough money. And so these people are the moderates that the Democrats in the Senate are turning towards to save them from Trump. And we see this dynamic playing out all over the place, where you have people saying, oh, well, Mike Pompeo and John Kelly, they speak. This is respectability politics playing out again, right? They speak well. Right. They don't say crazy things. They're not on Twitter calling the CIA Nazis, so they will help moderate Trump. And it's like, no, like, I'm sorry, sweetie. They are not moderate by any metric that a real person would use. They are simply not as bad. They have more media training.
Right.
They're just politicians. They're politicians in general, and they're used to speaking in front of Senate committees and Senate hearings. And you see that when the discrepancy between people like them and people like DeVos, where they lack that training, but they're just as crazy.
Well, they also probably have better people. They probably have better people on their team, because we're also like these like admonitions, these promises are being made in written, responses, right? Like anybody can put anything in writing. That isn't, we should run it through a plagiarism check. Like anyone can write anything and say anything when it's a letter. They can have help with it, like all types of stuff. But it was just interesting because he just like this is just like you said, they'll sit there because he was someone, and I don't really think he didn't actually really get really grilled, but like, you know, there might be points where he clearly, you know, did not agree or seem to understand or whatever, and they're just like, oh yeah, well, you know, we're just gonna do our best. And that's just not, I just wonder, I don't think that's the way to do this. I mean, every person that is considered problematic on that list should be getting grilled, hammered away nonstop.
Well, this is not about, so I agree with you absolutely, but this is not about simply grilling them and demonstrating why they are inadequate or unfit for the position, not just from like an experience standpoint, but from we are trying to move the country in a more progressive direction. The drug war in Latin America has been a failure. We can't just simply turn to the president of the Philippines, whose name I can't pronounce, and say, well, his drug war is barbaric, but our drug war is great, even though it kills pretty much the same amount of people. But, you know, like our drug war is fine, but his drug war is bad. It's not simply about grilling them in public, and that's what Democrats need to understand. That's what these public displays of progressivism don't actually change anything. They just make you feel better about the people who you're voting for, and they provide cover for when they fail to do anything because they're so public. Right. That when these things get pushed through in the background, they kind of go undetected. But you do remember when they were yelling these crazy things. They were like, you do remember when they were being grilled, and a lot of this has to do with a misunderstanding of how this, how these kind of confirmation hearings work, right? So I guess people think that John Kelly, I'm sorry, I keep saying John Kelly, that's not his name. That Kelly or Carson or Tillerson or that they have shame and that they're embarrassed by this. They do not. Mm-mm. If they don't, and if they are embarrassed, it goes away in a few weeks because they get the job anyway. Like imagine going to a job interview for a really important job, and the people at the interview laid out reason after reason for why you were unqualified and made you feel so bad. But at the end, they were just like, "Okay, we get the job anyway. Next week, look forward to working with you."
Exactly.
It'd be like you would feel a little bit. You would be confused, obviously, but it's like, okay, well, hey, you'd feel better immediately because I got the job anyway. Like it's all a game. It's all theater. And I think that the people who are being grilled know they're going to get confirmed anyway. Right. So it's not that big of a deal for them either. So it's like it's just everyone trying to build up their base, get their fundraising up, put up a brave front, and then business as usual. We'll be getting confirmed.